Hey everybody, today's episode is sponsored by Apple Juice for Two's very own merch store. If you head over to sunroomstudiosllc.com and click on the merch tab, you can see a bunch of the new pieces that we put up there recently that we're really excited about and people seem to be enjoying. So if you like anything that you see there, go ahead and pick something up. Today on the show, we were thrilled to be able to get the chance to talk to John Keith, aka Kubby, of Stoplight Observations. Quick little disclaimer though, about 3/4 into the interview, we realized that Isaiah's microphone wasn't recording properly, so we've kind of cut it up so that we just cut in between his responses and stuff, because most of it was just, me shooting John questions and him responding. So it turned out fine, regardless. And towards the end, his mic comes back on. But just so you know, that's why we're cutting in between those things. So without further ado, this is our conversation with John Keith of Stoplight Observations. So John, what have you been up to today?
Apple juice.
Oh, today. Main thing that I did today was get my my iPhone speakers out of rice.
Nice. Resurrected from the rice.
Yeah, I was very surprised because my son put my earpods. I got into my truck. He was like, "Oh, happy. You see your son so happy." You're like, "Oh, this is great. He's inside of it." I get in there. It was a dumb move on my part, but sometimes I go to the gym and leave my dog safely in the car in good temperatures with the windows rolled down.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll leave some water in the the cup holder because it doesn't leak. So it's like a little cup holder. However, I get in the truck and my ear pods are just in the bowl of water.
Oh no.
Submerged.
Oh my god.
Dang.
But I was really surprised. Props to Apple.
Well, okay, I kind of want to just get straight into it and go back with you for a sec. So, did you grow up in South Carolina, in Charleston?
Yeah, I was born in Anderson, South Carolina.
Okay.
Till I was 6. Then my dad took a job in Indiana for 3 years, middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute. It was a really good blessing. It taught me how to just uproot and live in a place. I also know what it's like to be judged up there. I was crazy, but I was getting called hillbilly all the time.
Yeah.
When really they were in the middle of fucking cornfields.
That's true. Yeah.
There's the thing about some parts of the Midwest is there is nothing but corn.
It's just flat.
Yeah,
corn.
that's it. Then I lived outside of Cleveland for 1 year, and in that 1 year I was there, that's where the Black Keys were kicking.
Oh, okay, nice.
And that's when LeBron James was in high school.
Oh wow.
In Akron. So yeah, in 20 minutes away. So
Yeah.
then I moved back here. I moved to Old Village.
Nice.
Where I meet Lee Ziegler, Robert Henry's oldest brother.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I meet Robertina right off the rip.
Nice.
And
gotta love Rob.
he's impossible. You can't. There's some people you can't not love.
Exactly. Of course, yeah. He's our in-house meteorologist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's the greatest.
He is. Yeah. And he hooked us up. So shout out to Rob.
Yeah.
Were you really excited to be back in the South when you came back from Cleveland, or?
Yeah, for sure. I remember I used to have dreams every single night of moving back south.
Really?
And when I lived in Anderson, one thing I have a unique Charlestonian experience is that I was born in Anderson, but I lived every single summer, the entire summer on Sullivan's Island. So if you go to Sullivan's and you go to Fort Moultrie,
okay,
there's that one street where you can park right on the beach.
Yeah.
To the right of Fort Moultrie, if you drive right past it. To the right, there's a beach house that's yellow with a red roof.
Okay.
And it's 4 condominiums, and I lived in the top left one all summer long. And my parents got it for $90,000 after Hugo and
whoa.
Yeah, and then in the 90s, and they actually just sold it to the head coach of the Utah Jazz.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is insane. That's crazy to think that you could have bought a piece of property here, let alone beachfront property, for $90,000.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Well, so what kind of memories do you have from spending summers there? Were you playing music there during the summers, or just playing on the beach being a kid, or
Yeah. Well, Well, I was right next to Fort Moultrie,
Mm-hmm.
so I spent every single day in Fort Moultrie,
Nice.
like nonstop. And that's the thing that I feel like I have a unique Charlestonian experience in that, like a lot of my friends in the old village growing up, they were born and raised, lived their entire life in the old village.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, especially when you have kids, you learn this. It's easy to get sucked into like your little routinal bubble. And a lot of those kids would be like, yeah, I only went downtown like 4 or 5 times my whole life.
Wow.
But my uncle lives on Ashley Street and he has for like 35 something years. So I would go downtown multiple times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to Sullivan's Island, it's like I knew the entire history of the South because there's all those tours going on at Fort Moultrie all the time. And I would just follow the tour people. Yeah, and one thing about this is a great Fort Moultrie fact, and just Charleston represent like deep as fuck fact, is Fort Moultrie was built. So when the idea of America was coming together in 1776, South Carolina had Fort Moultrie on Sullivan's Island, and there was very low budget. The morale of this idea of America was pretty low.
Huh.
And so like America was not like a very established idea. Most people are still afraid of England. But what happened was Sullivan's Island eventually became General Moultrie, built a fort, and all they had, because the island was made of palm trees, was palms.
Right.
So they just built it out of palm trees. Well, the most gangster ass navy in the whole fucking world, the British.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking like gangster ass pirate dick boats, just like going down. Yeah. Like Pimp My Ride had like some really early episodes of these guys.
Those
like,
redcoats were buzzing, dude.
Yeah. I mean, but they're the ones off of the Assassin's Creed where they're like 100 feet tall. They're huge, and they have like 30 of them, and they're coming in. It's the largest fleet in the whole world, and they're coming into Charleston just to like fuck us up. And they just see this teeny little fort, and they just start just like, oh, this bitch is dead. Like, toast. They start just flying on it. They have no clue like inside of the fort. But the buoyancy of the palmetto logs bounces the cannonballs off of them.
Hell yes, dude.
And so they just sit there for hours and hours and eventually take down and fuck up enough ships to where they peace out. Well, word spreads like wildfire across America, and it makes the morale go way, way up.
That's
and all of a sudden,
awesome.
everyone starts joining the army behind America and isn't afraid anymore because we had our first major victory. And it was the other day I was telling this story, and I looked at the guy that runs the tours at Fort Moultrie, and I was like, do you think that we would be America had that not happened? And he was just like stout as fuck and was like, absolutely not.
That's crazy. Because like I have heard the palmetto bouncing story before, but I had no idea the connection between the morale and like
Yeah.
So that does make a lot of sense. That's wild. Well, so when did you like? What kind of music did you grow up with? Like, what was around being played by your like dad or your family, like in the car and stuff?
Yeah, my dad's a major music fan, and he's like, one thing I appreciate about his taste is super eclectic.
Nice.
So we would go on super long car rides together, and a lot of that had to do with living in Indiana because when we would come and visit, we wouldn't fly, we'd drive. So we'd have like 13-hour car rides, which as a little boy is like, it's the equivalent of like a 300-hour car ride now.
Yeah.
Like the perspective of time. So he wouldn't just play music. He would give me like a straight up history 101. He played me all the classic rock and bluegrass and like old country.
Wow.
And then on my mom's side, and then for him was like Beatles and Rolling Stones, and then on my mom's side was like Elvis, Frank Sinatra, Motown, like especially like the Supremes and the Four Tops and like all the beach music.
Okay.
So like old 50s pop,
Nice.
like late 50s pop hits me super hard. Like Frank Sinatra hits me super hard. My first 5 albums that I like destroyed, I heard them so much, was I was actually talking to my wife about this the other day, but I have such a deep fucking love for Smash Mouth.
Really?
Yeah, it's like I like my son's obsessed with Shrek right now,
Nice.
and
Valid.
it's such a good movie. Like
Honestly, yeah, very
they
much is, yeah.
they crushed that. But it starts with All Star, and at least for me, I mean, I was in second grade. Y'all probably don't even remember, but like for that song to come out in second grade, it's the most perfect second grader
That's
hit.
true.
It's like a second grader hit.
Hey now.
It's like, I mean, it's like perfect second grader hit, and it would just light my soul on fire.
Wow.
Like,
So you kind of just like connect to that still
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, I had a pool party. So when my dad took that job, it was a very pretty low middle class, like farmer style town
Okay.
in Warsaw. And farmer is like farmer rich is like you're loaded, but no one knows it. Like you might not even know it. Like you don't let yourself know it. My dad, yeah, because farmer rich is like you might have sold literally $10 million of crops in profit a year, but you might have like locusts come or like some kind of drought come, and you have to be prepared to make it like 2 or 3 years with that money. So my dad was at a CVS one time and said that a woman was at the checkout and at a CVS and just finished, and all of a sudden, you know, you have like the little shitty like candy bars and shit toys at the very end.
Yeah.
She grabbed a bouncy ball and said, "How much is this?" She was like, "I think it's 15 cents." And she did. I'll get it. And then checked out, and my dad was like, "Thank God." And all of a sudden, she got the change, got the receipt, started to walk away, and turned around and said, "You know what? I don't think I'm gonna get this."
Whoa.
And got the change back.
Hell, okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's farmer rich.
Oh my god.
So in this town, my dad got a nice job, and you know, we had the dopest house in the entire town, like just this sick ass mansion
Nice.
with like a pool and like assloads of land and a golf cart. And the funny thing is, the only reason I'd even brag like that is the house is like $350,000.
Right, yeah.
You know,
that
it's
would be
just-
like a shack down here, you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. You can't even get anything like
Yeah.
here for that. But when I was there, I threw a pool party there for my second grade graduation, which, God, nothing like graduating second grade.
Exactly, man. Yeah. Gotta
Yeah.
kick it back, you know?
And-
Celebrate.
And I brought everybody to my house, which at that age, your friends don't come to your house yet so much. Especially I lived out in the middle of nowhere. I was raised by toads and bullfrogs and like,
Yeah.
skeeters and salamanders. Like those are my friends, like straight up. And I had the Smash Mouth album, and I turned it on for all my friends and blasted the stereo up. And I remember just like rocking the fuck out,
Wow.
like in front of everybody, just like dancing. And I could tell like everyone wanted to feel the way that I was feeling, but just didn't have like the like nerve to
Right.
get to that place yet.
Uh-huh.
And that was the first moment where I was like, I think I'm a performer.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where like, you're connecting with them, or like you wanted
Yeah.
to communicate that to them?
It was like, because I think and I've had a misunderstanding my whole life, and I feel like most artists have some form of misunderstanding, but it was like, I've always feel like I've been judged for being cocky
Mm.
when I feel really misunderstood, because what I'm really doing is I'm just doing what I feel so led to do. And what that looks like to some people is like, like showing off, or just
Mhm.
like trying to get the attention.
Right.
You know, like, oh, you just look at him trying to be like an attention getter. But how I feel in that moment is like, please join me.
Yeah.
You know, like, I feel like, join me. Like, I'm having so much fun. Like, do what I'm doing. It feels really good.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I feel like, yeah, a lot of people, like, it's in everybody, but like with most people, there's like a block there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't allow themselves to get to that place or something, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
So when did you start, when did like you first pick up an instrument? Like, you have that moment where you're like, oh, I want to like
Yeah.
do this and feel this with people. Like, did
Yeah.
you start playing guitar, or like learn some Frank Sinatra songs or something, or like,
So I just moved to the old village.
okay.
Just met Robertina.
Hell yeah.
And this is like literally the true story. I move here. Our realtor is like, let's show you some people next door, and introduces me to Robert's oldest brother, Lee, and his brother, TJ, and Robert, which they're literally my family. Like those were my brothers. Like when Lee was out playing baseball, I'd just play with them.
Mm.
And I went on a bicycle ride. And that very first day, went on a bicycle ride and saw this little girl like playing with her dog. And I came back home and told my sister and my mom, I was like, I have urgent news. And they were like, ha ha ha, what is it? And I was like, I got to take y'all out to dinner. I got big news.
Wow.
So I took them out to Salt and Pepper Diner in Mount Pleasant. I would always get the chicken fried steak with the white gravy,
Oh my God, that's awesome.
mashed potatoes, and some mac and cheese. But I sat them down. I was like, I got really big news. And they're like, haha, what is it? And I was like, I just met the woman I'm going to marry.
Wow.
And they're like, ha ha ha, like that's so funny. Anyway, to answer your question, there's this girl that in our neighborhood that I just fell in love with, and I was like, I felt like she was too good for me. I was pudgy at the time. Like I was like, I stretched out with time.
Right,
Like,
okay, yeah.
There was a time I was just eating a lot of chicken fried steak
Exactly.
and gravy.
It was making you wide.
Yeah. And so I got I thought the only way I could win this girl's heart is if I was fucking obsessed with the Rolling Stones.
Oh,
The most important song of my life is Satisfaction, because I heard it in 4th grade in an Angelina Jolie movie. And when I heard it, I was just like, I'd never heard it before. And I was like, whatever the fuck that is what I want to do for my life. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, what? That just unlocked some like,
Yeah.
just like,
Some hidden thing inside.
like the best way to describe rock and roll is not a genre. It's a vibe. It's a message. And it's stick it to the maniosis.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. And I had that. And I was like, that's the only way to win this girl's heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad got me a guitar for my birthday. It was a black Stratocaster. And I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I ended up giving this guitar to Robert Henry.
Hell yeah, nice.
Robert Henry, I just small world, but like I gave it to him. But anyway, I named it Jordan after this girl in my class.
Nice.
And my idea was I was going to play Jumpin' Jack Flash at the school talent show
Yeah.
and win her heart over, and then she could never escape me.
How could you? Yeah.
And I would literally, I'm not religious, but I've always been very spiritual. And I'd pray to God at night and say, Dear God, I pray that everyone in the world dies except me and her, so that she has to be with me.
Oh.
Literally. And then, long story short, I learned how to play guitar and I start dating that girl. And now she's my wife and I have 2 kids.
Wow. That's incredible. The spell was cast.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
You did, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'm like a pro.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's also something about with like Mick and Keith, like
Yeah.
not even just the energy, but and not in a weird way, but like the sexualness
Yeah.
of the rock and roll with them
Yeah.
too is like palpable, and you could feel that
Oh, for
through
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, I guess it sounds like that kind of just awakened you in a sense, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's wild. In your family, like, were your parents always supportive about your musical journey, like, or was it always like, we're worried about John, like he's really into music?
No, it was the opposite, because I feel like when I started playing music, I just naturally liked doing it, but I was like, this isn't like it's like very rare to be able to make this. And I definitely, a part of me wanted that, and I dreamt it and I manifested it for sure. But then when I got to college, I was very seriously thinking about what I was going to do, like from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Mm-hmm. What did you study in college?
Business.
Okay, yeah.
And then I remember my mom is very influential. Like, if a mom's believing in you, something about a mama, just believing
That's
in
all
you.
you need, dude, honestly.
Yeah. But my dad and my mom was always very supportive. I mean, my house was the band room. So the band room was at my house. My dad, Lewis Duffy, and I started the band when we were 13.
Mm.
And he was 13, I was 14. And just a guitar. And then Luke, the drummer, got kicked out of his band.
Ooh.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God he did,
So he's like, I'm looking for a job.
Yeah. No, I mean, at that time, he was so much better than we were. Like, we
Oh, really?
sucked, and he was so much better. And his band he was in was sick. And we jammed at Mike Veck's house, who's the owner of the River Dogs, who was who's neighbors with Robert. And his daughter was our best friend, Rebecca. She passed away a few years ago. And we would go visit her. His band room would let us jam, and Luke had the very first jam over there.
Okay.
And the second we played with him, we were like, oh shit, we're getting like a big step up.
Mm-hmm.
So then we got very creative, and we were writing super cool songs, and we, you know, never necessarily thought we were gonna like make it or anything like that, but definitely were rock and roll. And then one day, I knew Will, our singer,
Mm-hmm.
for a long time through school, and I was friends with him, but we didn't necessarily hang out. And this was early Facebook, like literally, I think it just became public to people outside of college.
Wow.
And I saw a video of him singing a Goo Goo Dolls song, Iris,
Okay.
which not necessarily a Goo Goo Dolls fan, but I clicked it and played it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like I knew Will, like for sure. Like I went to middle school with him. I knew him in high school.
Yeah.
At that time period, he was like super into golf and like was hanging out with like kind of bow friends.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, like the Wando bow scene.
Exactly. Yep. Uh-huh.
And
The dip.
and so I was like very surprised. Like I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
That
Like,
he had a voice. And
yeah, and at that time it was very clean and pure.
Mm.
And like he hadn't like tapped into the soulfulness yet, but it was there.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. And anyway, I went to sleep not thinking too much about it. And in my dream, you know, every once in a while you have like a very vivid dream that almost is like psychedelic and feels more real than real life.
Yes.
And you kind of wake up feeling shook a little
Yeah.
bit.
Uh-huh.
I woke up, and in my dream, God came to me in my dream, which at that time I wasn't even using the word God,
Yeah.
but like the presence called itself God. And it was like, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to call Will Blackburn and ask him to be in your band.
Wow.
And I woke up, and it was like one of those like weird, realer than real things. And I didn't even think about it. I just texted him and said, hey, do you want to jam with us this afternoon?
Wow.
And he came over, and my dad, talking about family support, is like he bought a drum set, bought a full rig bass stack, bought all the guitars.
Wow.
Like he totally took his midlife crisis out on me. Like he really did. I was barely playing guitar, and I had a Taylor 314 CE, a Gibson SG, a Gibson Les Paul, a Fender American Stratocaster, like a Ludwig drums, like all this shit. And like I didn't even know how to play. And my mom was like literally pushing divorce on my dad.
No way.
I swear to
my
God. She was like, you have to stop. Like it sounds like ruckus. I can't like think in my house anymore because it's so loud. And anyway, Will came over and sang, and my mom never ever did this, but she came upstairs and actually listened. And when everyone left, she was like, you need to make sure you keep that guy.
Wow.
And I was already thinking that anyway, but it was nice. And then, you know, a few years later, I think we put our first demo out called The Zoo. And it was a big moment in my life. And I don't even know if I've even told my mom this, but I was in college and I was doing well. I was a sophomore at CFC, and I actually got the Entrepreneur of the Year award, which is granted to only seniors.
Oh, wow.
But I snuck into the class and like won it. It was taught by Tommy Baker, you know, Baker Automotives. That guy's a fucking G.
Really?
That guy is like, I learned more in that one class than I did all of college.
Wow.
Because when you're spending time with a guy that oozes that much success, you
just pick up on it.
Yeah, you just
absorb
like,
it.
you just like, yeah. That guy had more sayings than anybody in
Yeah.
history. He would walk in and just like low key be like, I like tall ships, I like small ships, I like fast ships, I like all ships.
Tommy Baker.
And he's like, but
2013.
I don't like partnerships.
Oh, wow. And that taught me more about business than any textbook ever.
Literally. Like when you hear it like that, he's like, what business do y'all think I is in? Like he was straight up like old South, like
Yeah, he
tone of
talked
voice,
like the molasses coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Literally. And it'd be people like, you're in the car business, you're in the investment business. He's like, I was in the business of making money.
Yep. Nice.
He's just always just dropping lines like that. So I just won that, and I was thinking I'm going to be a businessman. And my mom came up to me and was like, I think you really should try pursuing this music thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like seriously? Like you
Yeah,
really
for
think
real.
that? She's like, yeah, like you don't get this shot a lot in life. Like you should do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. Like,
Wow.
sure.
So it's like something, the fact that fell into place with like you just getting that feeling or that calling to like you need to get Will in, and then your mom just like seeing it and pushing you, like
Yeah.
That confirmation is so valuable.
yeah,
Yeah. For
those
sure.
chain of events, like that
Yeah.
support, that's so crucial. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's so interesting, like whatever spiritual system people have or don't have, or like, you know, whether it's God or anything, you know what I mean? Like, just those kinds of things, like, if you tap into it, you know what I mean? And like listen to it. Some people would just ignore it, be like, ah, it's a dream, you know what I mean? But
For
like
sure.
listening to it, you listen to it, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it paid off.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Was Will always like, did he always consider himself a singer? Because like his voice is huge and just massive, and
Yeah.
like he posted that video of him singing Goo Goo Dolls. Was that just like a joke or something, or like?
No, I think like that was, you know, whatever your nature is, I feel like it'll immerse itself and like grow out. It's kind of like no matter how much concrete you plant on the planet, like little weeds will sprout out of it, you know?
Right. Okay.
As I feel like singing is so deeply ingrained in him that he was going to sing eventually anyway. And I think he was going to sing no matter what.
Yeah.
He's just a natural singer. Like he's never been trained to sing.
Wow. That's
He's
incredible.
never taken any lessons to sing.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's the thing about Will is if he were to sing soul, is in the soul world, it's hard to hold a hat to like when you start getting into the jazz soul world because there's so many insanely talented soul singers. Like that is their entire life. But what they do in that soul world is just that soul thing. It's like that's their thing.
Right.
In the rock world, not necessarily the greatest singers, but there's like a certain style and cadence of singing. Same thing is like it's usually just that's all they can do. The thing about Will is I don't think he's the greatest soul or jazz singer in the entire world. I don't think that he's the greatest rock singer in the entire world. But I've heard an assload of singers. I'm a very picky person, as I literally think he is the greatest rock soul singer in the entire world. Like that thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's mixing this world of rock and soul together. And not just like rock when you think like rock, but like indie rock or like classic rock or folk rock. It's like there's a lot of different palettes of colors.
Yeah, he's so dynamic.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, like when there's soft moments, but like when he can lean into the dirt and like get it grungy in his voice, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, when you guys were first starting, like what was it like first when you guys all started playing together? Like the core group, you got Will and the other guys, like did you first start just like practicing songs that you guys liked together, or were you just like hit the ground running writing songs, or
I was always like, I think the same thing with Will, where like the vegetation just naturally immerses. I was always going to like create, so I was writing songs like very early on.
Okay, yeah.
And it was actually Eminem and Biggie Smalls that got me to write songs because everyone started freestyling 6th grade when 6 Mile came out, or 8 Mile.
Yeah.
8 Mile. Ours is 6 Mile.
Yeah.
Ours is 6. Yeah, ours is 6 Mile. Theirs is 8 Mile. Which I've thought about this. Picture this shit. Like Eminem, I love that motherfucker. His picture releasing an album where the album release that you're releasing is like, okay, I'm releasing an album. That's amazing. Like, cool. I'm releasing a major record label album across the world with music videos. Damn, that's amazing. Beyonce, I'm releasing a full follow along music video that's all encompassed into one. Like, goddamn, that's fucking amazing. Only Eminem. I'm releasing a movie that is the album that I am putting out, and it's a story of a biographical story about me, and I'm starring in it. Like, holy shit. Like, so like that was big.
Yeah.
And so everyone in Moultrie Middle School and probably everyone in the whole fucking world was freestyling.
Yeah.
And so everyone was freestyling, and then I was freestyling too. And then all of a sudden I realized like, wow, I have some weird ass gift to be able to freestyle as long as I want to about whatever I want to. So I could freestyle whatever I want to as long as I want to. So I would just start writing songs. but there wasn't like a voice to it, and Will got to be the voice to the songs, and I'm grateful that he was open-minded enough to like trust me in that way. And I think he saw the same thing that I saw in him. And that's to me like when the band started was when Will joined. And then when I guess like to me Stoplight Observations, like because members have come and gone through time and done their own thing. But to me, when like Stoplight started was when Coleman Sawyer, who's the front man of Rare Creatures, that was when Stoplight started.
Yeah, okay.
Because he added this whole other element of musical knowledge that none of us had
Okay.
yet. Like he
Like theory-wise and stuff?
Yeah, like he played violin and,
nice.
and piano, and he was better than me and Lewis at guitar, but he decided to play bass. And
I feel like it's usually always like the most like theory like talented person who ends up playing bass generally.
like the John Paul Jones.
Exactly. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
That's really funny. But so like that songwriting partnership relationship that you have with William, like that's really important to have that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that trust in each other and stuff, and like you don't get that a lot.
Yeah.
And with Coleman, like so his knowledge would that like help you with like he would know like this chord to get you to like this next spot or something, or like did that kind of complete
He
the
was
puzzle?
very opinionated.
Okay.
That which eventually, as the band went on, and why he started his own band is you get to this space where there's just too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yes.
And looking back on it, it was hard at the time because when somebody that valuable leaves the team, it feels a little bit like a breakup. But looking back on it, I'm proud of him that he stuck to his gut and did that. But B, that was just the better thing to do because he needed to express all this stuff in him
Yeah.
where he's not having to like filter it through someone.
Right.
Like, this is your song. This is wouldn't it be a great idea if it did this? Is like he needed to just be like full force, like
Right.
pedal to the metal, have other collaborators within him. Which looking back on it, I was at a place in my life where I think I got coined so much as the lead creator in the band
Okay.
that I wasn't emotionally ready for another lead creator to come into the band. But looking back on it, there was like this opportunity for Coleman to also be a lead creator. But we just didn't have the dynamic and like the emotional know-how at that time. So it just made more sense for him to go do his own thing.
Yeah. I mean, especially as young artists, like just growing up, you have to become like emotionally intelligent in that sense, like in that working relationship, like in the studio or whatever, like with people, like you have to be able to set aside like, or just like assess your own ego moments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And recognize that, you know what I mean? But it's kind of like a Beatles situation where like, you know, they all were so talented
Yeah.
but like coming together to, pun intended, yeah, exactly. But then like get on the same page, like it's just like the talent, you know what I mean? Like you can't fit so much into the same package all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like.
For sure.
So Coleman's not a part of the band anymore,
No.
correct? Okay.
No.
He's been doing, what's his band called again?
Rare Creatures.
Nice, okay.
Though she had a daughter, Juniper. She's almost a year old, so that's been taking up a big chunk of his life.
Yeah.
And the other thing about Coleman, so he'd always say this. He'd say, "I'm the jack of all trades in the band," and he really was. But he's also like an incredibly skilled, like wood shaper, framer,
Carpenter.
house builder.
Wow.
Like he knows so much about this. Like he's like an encyclopedia. Like when you're hanging, he would be a great person to have on here.
Okay.
Because he just has so much information and can
We have to
talk
do that
talk about anything forever.
Okay. Definitely.
And he's hilarious.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of people who can like do stuff with their hands in that sense.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. I can't draw for shit or like actualize a piece of like if I had an idea for like a wood, you know what I mean? Like
Right. Yeah.
a plant pot.
Yeah.
Like
Except I will throw another Tommy Baker out there. He always said he'd be like, he's like the people that run the world were not the valedictorians. They were the ones that hired the valedictorians.
yeah. We need to get some framed Tommy Baker quotes in the office. Well, speaking of like fatherhood and like, you know, getting into that life, you know, as a creative person,
Yeah.
how has that changed just like your perspective on creativity or like your process as an artist? Like, have you noticed anything since then?
Yeah, I mean, I would say more for my daughter who was born in August than my son. It's because when your very first child, you have no clue what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how could you?
Right.
Um, it's like no matter how many pornos you've watched, you don't know how to shag one down until you
Right.
actually get in the sheeters.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like he came into the world, you don't know what you're doing but when you know you're having another child, it's kind of like an opportunity to be like, I want to do it better than I did it last time. Like just slow the brakes. You're not as worried, so it's like you can absorb it a little more. It is a little more difficult though because you can't give that full undivided attention all the time. But I would say with my daughter, she's like a muse
Really?
to my creativity.
Wow.
That's amazing.
When I'm around her, I just like can tap into what I'm really trying to
Wow.
say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And like, do you think like that's a side of your creativity like you weren't able to access maybe before that, or like?
I think I always accessed that, and then through time, you get jaded by like let's just say all of a sudden some company hits y'all up to do like a big promo or something, and there's money on the line, and then you get an investor, and then the investor's wanting y'all to like maybe tone things down, but you might lose the promotion if you don't, and then you'll get picked up by this other company, and then Spotify's gonna playlist you, but now the label's involved and they're gonna take their investment now and they want to say how this is going. The next thing is like you start making a lot of creative decisions that are not based on what you actually want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And through kind of having some space away from like touring after COVID and having kids, as I'm getting back into this place of like, you forget.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, I used to write exactly what I wanted to say at that exact moment.
Yeah.
And that was like the most deep, like free, pure,
Just concentrated
clairvoyant
food.
part. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
part of me that was like that inner child. You know, you could almost describe it as like the inner child. And now that you have a
Innocence of
child,
it, yeah.
it just reflected. It's like you're looking at something that couldn't be any more pure. And so it's like I don't know, just naturally, just like when you're around Tommy Baker, it just brings out the best in you. It's like it just brings out, like he might bring out the salesman in you,
Right.
your own baby. Like
Mhm.
it's your baby, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like you're looking in their eyes and you're like, God damn, that's my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, you're like those are my eyebrows.
That's psychedelic on a whole.
It is.
That's crazy.
There is nothing. Babies are the most. I think they're like the Black Keys. They're the most overrated, underrated thing in the entire world.
Well, let's unpack that. Black Keys. Yeah, just elaborate on that.
They, especially at their hype, they're the most overrated, underrated band in the entire world. And by that, I mean that they were so famous that everybody was calling them overrated.
Okay, yeah.
So everyone's like, oh, the band's overrated. So then they became labeled overrated. So now people are like classifying them as kind of like pop, like sugar candy canes, like, you know, just certain things that aren't exciting or sexy. So you kind of shelf them in this own category in your subconscious mind where you're not giving them as much credit.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, when you actually listen to them, you're like, this band's fucking underrated.
Wow.
Because they're so sick.
Yeah.
Like that's why they're that big, is because they're so amazing. It's like babies, like there's nothing more like over like babies, like your whole fucking life, babies. Like
Right.
there's baby shit. There's babies over there, baby toys. Like baby, like you see a baby, if a baby entered the room and it's not your baby and you haven't had babies yet, it's the same thing.
You
as
hate
like,
that baby.
it's just like a watermelon at a grocery store. Like you just walk past it, it's there. You know, it's not like against it, it's just there. When you have a baby though, and you go through the entire process of doing the number one thing you love doing, which is shagging, and you do it with the number one person that you love, if you're fortunate enough in that situation, and through that experience, you create a version of their entire ancestral lineage and your entire ancestral lineage combined together in one moment of space and time
Wow.
that comes out and has its own soul and spirit and consciousness and own personality like fucking immediately.
Yeah.
Like they have a personality like by 2 weeks old.
Wow.
Like you can tell that they have their own Like having 2 children, you think, oh, maybe I'm just imprinting my personality onto them. But when you have a second one that's that different,
Yeah.
you're like, oh wow, like my daughter is nothing like my son.
Nice.
Like
Okay.
they're
Yeah.
nothing like each other at all. So it's the most overrated, underrated thing in the entire world.
Yeah. That's like I said, just like trippy, straight up.
It's like those billboards when you're out in Tennessee. It's like there is proof there's God. And
Right.
it just shows like a baby.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I'm like I'm at this point. I'm like, yep. I'm down for 1-800 whatever they're selling over there. I don't know what you're selling, but like I'm on it.
Yeah, exactly. Did that like, I mean, we're talking right now and like in retrospect and hindsight and like all these moments where like you recognize that, there were like spiritual or sort of like mystical things, you know what I mean, involved
Yeah.
in this. But like, did you always identify it as that? Or is it not till like you've kind of grown up and matured to be like, oh, there's like a frequency to like the universe and life that's like why these things are happening? Or
Yeah, I think through time, one of my deeper goals, like outside of music, because music is a gigantic part of my life, but it's not the biggest part of my life, is um, I have this deeper wish and hope that I feel like the way we've been raised, especially in the South, is like very forced religion.
mm-hmm.
And then we grew up in the age of the internet where at some point in your timeline you disbelieve and dismantle your faith, and then you get a higher understanding of realizing that not only do you not necessarily agree that some dude split the sea in half, but you also realize how many people got murdered for not believing that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then all of a sudden you totally dismantle the entirety thing. And then now where we're left as a society is we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and that we've let go of spirituality entirely because we don't agree with the religion. But the problem is that just like grocery stores have apple juice. Apple juice is not grocery store.
Right.
As religion has spirituality, but spirituality is not religion.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I love asking people this question, but just for shits and giggles, and I'll switch it to you. What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
SpongeBob.
Okay, me too. All right. So right now, this podcast is being heard by a bunch of children, and they come into the room and they're like, "Hey, everybody, what are y'all talking about?"
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, "Ooh, shit. Well, I don't think they're gonna understand this." All right. Picture this: SpongeBob. You know SpongeBob, right? Yeah, hell yeah, you do. Okay, absorbent, yellow, and porous is he. All right, listen up. SpongeBob, he's been here since the beginning. Like SpongeBob has always been here at the beginning. SpongeBob will always be here. SpongeBob is never ending in space. SpongeBob is never ending in dimension and all wisdom and all understanding. And actually, SpongeBob created everything. Like everything you see, SpongeBob created. SpongeBob created you. He knows everything you're going to do. He knows when you've been sleeping. He knows when you're awake. And he knows when you've been good or bad. So be good for goodness sake, because that motherfucker knows. Because everything is SpongeBob and SpongeBob is everything. Is what it is the combination of the Latin letters that are just a combination of vowels and symbols, which are just sounds g, d. It's just a word chosen to place this deep, hard to grasp understanding so that human beings can personify an image in their mind, so that they connect to this unfathomable thing that the most enlightened people can still gather in the same communion as the most uneducated and still be able to speak on the same plane of field. And we all know that.
Yeah.
But then it's like we can't say God. And
Yeah.
so then we miss out on fucking God.
Yeah.
We miss out on the universe. We miss out
Right.
on everything because we're caught up in these words because we're like, religion's lame.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And it's like religion isn't like going to church, or it isn't just like like it's not the system of it, but it's like getting
It's
in.
not the human. It's not. It's beyond. It's more.
It's getting in touch with like that actual spiritualness of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like with the facilities that like us as a species have, like our eyes can perceive like the electromagnetic spectrum, our ears can hear like sound frequencies, and we could taste and smell, but we don't have any tools or like facilities to like directly perceive like what that fourth dimension might be, the
Right.
spiritualness of it. So
For
like
sure.
our only like way to tap into it, I guess, is like some sort of like meditating on it. You know what I mean? Or like just trying to feel it or something. You know what I mean? Like I guess how else do you?
Mushrooms.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, what do you think of like to you? What's your relationship with drugs and creativity?
Well, I think it's neurology. I don't even think it's drugs. I think drugs. The crazy thing about drugs is they don't necessarily all the time add things to the neurology you already have, like your neurochemicals. They just deprive certain parts of your brain so that other parts of your neurochemicals are like, for example, coffee doesn't actually wake you up more. It just turns off the part of your brain that's telling you you're tired. So you're not actually more awake. You're just the part of your brain's not telling you that you're tired.
Yeah.
So I feel like drugs are just manipulating the natural chemistry of your brain to function in certain ways that they could function without them if you had the ability to control it that way. And I don't know if this is true. I've heard it, but it was like when the Beatles went to India and started doing acid, that I forget his name. I don't want to butcher it. Y'all might know, but it was like one of the Indian gurus they studied with.
Maharogi, I think. Maharishi Maharogi, I think, is the guy who George brought them there to see and everything. Yeah.
So supposedly, and I could have this wrong, but supposedly they gave him acid and it just didn't do anything to him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. He was just like so spiritually powerful, or like that muscle in his brain was already flexed enough.
Yeah, and I've been doing a lot of study on the brain, a lot of study on like body, soul. Like what is we use these terms all the time. Like what's a thought?
Right.
What's a belief? What's attitude?
Uh-huh.
What is soul? What is spirit? And I was researching soul last night, and soul is actually by definition under both Christian, Buddhist, and by like psychology standpoint, is this pretty much self-awareness. Like awareness of the self is the soul.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much consciousness. So it's like consciousness is the soul.
Huh.
Spirit is actually a slightly different word than soul, and it's like beyond the consciousness is kind of what I was gaining.
From like a empirically like scientifical standpoint, or what kind of stuff were you looking
like
into?
at that point it was like mixed different definitions, and like the more religious it got, the more it was kind of steering away from a different word usage than soul. But it seemed like soul was just the awareness of self, which like he's got soul,
right?
It's like, yeah, boy, singing with self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to like dig into that, like as someone who's really soulful in that sense, like they are, I guess, just like self-aware and really in touch with that part of themselves.
Yeah.
And they can just fucking dance.
Yeah. In this world where we're fighting for equality, is in the meantime, not just racial equality, but gender equality, is we're saying that God, that in a lot of theology of Christianity, is Jesus is God.
Right.
Like if you talk to a lot of ministers, Jesus is God. And sometimes it's Jesus came as God's only son. Sometimes God came in the form of human, but as Jesus is God. And in the meantime, he's depicted as a white man. So it's like, how the fuck are we supposed to get gender and racial equality if we're saying the inventor of the universe is a white man?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the fuck?
I mean, that just goes to show like you're just projecting your own ego-ness, or whatever. Like, the white man thinks that they are the center of the world. So to them,
literally.
That is what the Jesus is, or the God. You know what I mean? It's like
geographically, there's just no way that he can be a blue-eyed, blonde-eyed Caucasian male if he came from Jerusalem.
Right.
Like that doesn't
no
make any
chance.
sense. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense.
And he might even like I've spent some time in the Middle East and like Southeast Asia, and like there are people blacker than Africans in parts of there, like where their skin is literally like straight up as black as I've ever seen skin be black. It's not brown. It's like a blacker skin. And they're Middle Eastern. He might have just straight up been black. Like, we don't know.
Probably, yeah.
Had a taper fade and a beard like me.
But,
Cornrows.
I've always said if I could have cornrows, I would want like my dream is to get like my pubes and my ass cornrowed. Like, I want a cornrow on my ass. It's like clean, like gooch, like
straight gooch to ball, like braid.
Picture like pulling down pants and just having like just clean as fuck, like cornrowed everything.
Oh my god, dude.
You just be like, wow.
I don't even. I'm not allowing myself to look at that. Like,
that would be really impressive.
That would be very impressive.
Like, yeah,
that's a lot of like time just to like grow out your gooch hair and then sit like legs up to your fucking chest, and someone's just like,
"Look what I did."
Like, just braiding your shit.
Just picture walking into that barbershop.
Yeah, dude. Oh my god.
I want my gooch braided. Come right up, kid.
You just walk into like a normal like ass barbershop like to get your hair done, and there's just like some like 92-year-old man, legs in the sky, just spread open.
Yo, how much for a pube bros? Pube dreads. That sounds stinky.
That'd be a good just content video. That's good content right there.
Oh my God.
We should take that and run with it.
That's our thing now.
Well, so we've been going close to an hour here, so I'll try to wrap it up soon.
Sure.
But to leave it on this note, I just want to ask you, are you fulfilled in your life?
So I'm actually creating a journal right now, and like in kind of the coaching world and like consulting world, and producing world, is one of the biggest things we all struggle with is procrastination.
Yes.
And one of the biggest things we all struggle with is confidence. Everyone struggles with confidence, and actually confidence usually derives from self-discipline.
Mm-hmm. Because
you think about it, if I told you I was going to give you, I brought a friend over, Jank Stinkyworth, and Jank Stinkyworth comes over and like he came in the podcast and you're like, hey, what's up? Like I didn't know he was coming, and like he's like throwing some like serious sketch vibes, and like interrupting and stuff, and like out there like playing on the boombox, and he's just kind of like disrespecting. And the next thing he comes in, he's like, can I borrow like $30? Like I'll Venmo you tomorrow. Like already you might not be trusting him. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow comes around, he doesn't Venmo you, but you bump into him and he's like, oh shit, like what's up? He's like, hey, hate to do this. I know I owe you $30. Could I borrow 30 more bucks? I'll Venmo you 60 tomorrow. Tomorrow comes around and he doesn't do it again. He asks you the third day, you gonna pay him?
No.
Do you trust him?
No.
Okay. So after just lying twice, we don't trust this guy. In the meantime, we're lying to ourselves all fucking day long, saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this, and we don't do it. The same brain that doesn't believe that guy is expecting that we're supposed to believe us.
Right.
It's the same brain. It doesn't believe it. It doesn't believe us. And when you don't believe something, you don't have confidence in it. Right. And so our confidence gets shot.
Damn.
And so this journal that I'm creating called the Joyride Journal is about getting things done in an easy fashion that creates organization and stuff like that. But the reason it's called joy, and I'm really fucking hung up on this to answer your question about satisfaction, is when I ask any client I work with, what do they really want? Like, what do you really, 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 really want? They never know the answer.
Yeah.
And if you ask most people that, they don't know. It's like we're on Amazon and Facebook and Instagram. We want all this fucking shit, but when we're asked what we really, 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 3 days later, really, really want, is we don't know the answer. But usually, if you can if you have the technique of asking the right questions, the person eventually says, I just want to be happy. You know, what do you really want? I want a career that fulfills me, and a wife that believes in me and loves me, and live on the water on Sullivan's Island, and a 14-inch wing wang. It's like, why do you want it? It's like, well, it'd be cool to have a big wing wang. It's like, why? If you keep asking why, usually it's the 5 whys, but sometimes it takes more. I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
We all just want to be happy. But here's the fucking craziest thing that's been blowing my mind about the word happiness and the concept of happiness, is that happiness is a temporary emotion based on circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say it again. It's a temporary emotion based on circumstance. So what happens after the sun rises? To the sun, what happens to it?
It'll set. Yeah.
Okay, then what happens after it sets?
It rises.
She gets back up.
Yep, again and again. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. When you're happy, it just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes and it goes and it comes and it goes.
Wow.
The thing is we're lied to and said that money doesn't buy happiness. That's fucking bullshit. You're telling me when you got that shirt,
Yeah.
you weren't happy, or when you got these like dope mic covers, you weren't happy?
Yeah, for real.
You were.
This was the last time I was happy.
Yeah.
When this came in the mail. Honestly, I'll be honest.
And it's like, how long does it last?
Yeah.
Not very long.
Mhm.
Well, if you were thirsty and I told you the only way that if you got thirsty and I said, hey, there's the sink over there. It has fresh water. You went over there, you got fresh water. Next time you get thirsty, where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go over there.
Mhm.
You're going to get more water because you know that that's what quenched your thirst.
Mhm.
We know that purchasing things makes us happy.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep buying shit. We're in a consumer-based capitalistic economy and it's being sold to us and we don't realize it, but we're being sold happiness so hard because it goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep buying into shit because it intentionally goes away.
Right.
And look at everybody. Only 14% of Americans in 2021 on a study done by University of Chicago were said to be actually happy. So
Wow.
86% of America is not actually diagnosably happy. In the meantime, you look at all the shit we have, and it's like, no, you were happy. You're just, by the time you probably took the test, you weren't happy anymore. So you went and
Yeah.
bought something else and it goes away. Okay, so happiness, a temporary emotion based on circumstance. Joy, we're just talking about words, vowels and consonants combined in some kind of form. Like, it blows my mind that in Japanese, they could still be like, do mahato fai, but it's still do a mohato fai, you know?
Yeah.
You only have very little dialects in other languages where you don't have just vowels and consonants. You might have the old
Right.
or like a or
Uh-huh.
you know,
Yeah.
but other than that. So joy is a mindset based on the acceptance of all emotion and all circumstance.
Mm.
So if the law of attraction is true and that which, you know, what you focus on improves, that which we have neuroplasticity in our brain. Our brain is constantly malleable. We have neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells, and those brain cells have little like trees that connect to each other, and those connections are called neural pathways. And the neural pathways can be created. So when we learn something new, it creates neural pathways. So when we have this ability, and we're putting out into the world at a deep subconscious level, I just want to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do? You get happy.
Yeah.
We all get happiness,
Huh.
but what we're getting is something that will always go away. It's the equivalent of, I want sunshine.
Yeah.
Well, if all you're manifesting is sunshine, that means half of every day you're going to be sad because it's going to be night.
Yeah.
What joy is the acceptance of day and night, of sad and mad, anxiety, depression. It's whatever emotion you get, you accept it and you work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever circumstance you get, you know, you lose your job, you can't pay your bill on time, like, you know, your dog dies, your mom gets sick, whatever. It's like, instead of being like, God damn it, I'm not happy, you know, this is some kind of test of life that's been brought to me.
Yeah.
And I want to work through it and accept it.
Yeah.
And we're not taught that. And so I'm creating a journal that's all about the journey of joy.
Yeah.
And doing it along with being able to break your habits and figure out your goals and create a very clear, concise plan so that you can quit procrastinating, get things done, and get that self-discipline so you can get that confidence.
Yeah.
And so am I satisfied? That's why I can't get no satisfaction
Yeah.
is my number one.
Yeah. Damn. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I actually want to ask you one more question. Because that was so interesting. But if you had to give like your younger self some advice, you know what I mean? Like knowing everything you know now and like with this perspective, what would you say to younger John Kubby?
Yeah. Well, back then I'm John Keith.
Okay.
So I would say authentically, honestly, 100%. I think I would say nothing because if I said something, I wouldn't be right here right now.
That's true. Nice. That makes sense. I mean, I guess like there's something that like as a like growing, you need to hear or like if this was like
100%, that is what I'd do. Like 100%.
Yeah.
If I went back in time and had because some people are at a place in their life where it's like, oh, if I'd have known earlier that I could put my head down in high school, that I could be a doctor now, or oh man, if I had just practiced guitar more, then maybe I could, or if I didn't have a bad attitude, I could have actually pursued my dream or some kind of shit like that, or don't boof that drug at that Kappa Alpha, that Kappa, because you're just gonna go on the internet and it's gonna ruin you. Don't do it. Is for me, straight up, the craziest thing about having a child is the very first night that my son was born, I had one of those vivid dreams. I don't have them all the time, but I had one. And in it, just to make another full circle, and I swear to God, this is what it is I got sent back in time to Robert Henry's oldest brother Lee's 6th grade birthday party. Wow. That was my dream. So like this evil character in my dream put me in a time machine and sent me to 6th grade. Yeah. And when I got there, it opened up and I was like, this is a cool dream. Like, whoa, like this is literally Lee's 6th grade birthday party. It's so surreal. Then all of a sudden I was like, wait, how am I supposed to get back to my son, Django? Yeah. And I was like, wait, that means I have to get married to Jordan again. Which means I have to date her again. Which means I have to ask her out the way I did. And I was like, which means I have to get this car. Which means I have to do this. This was like, wait, I have to wear this shirt. Which means I have to say this thing. And then what you realize is what a child is the infinite combination of outcomes that led from both the mother and the father to the exact moment of the climax of ejaculation that happened in the session of love. And that because we have 1 billion sperm, it's like rolling the lotto right there. There's 1 billion sperm going around. It's like, all right, and the winner today is right here, 211, and all of a sudden, like, that's the one that wins, fertilizes the egg, and then that is the child. Had she have stopped 1 billionth of a crank different, it'd be a different one. Like in that love session, had you just held on for one more second or just let go a little earlier, you'd have a completely fucking different child. And that's just one situation. What if you didn't kiss them at dinner that led to that thing? What if you cooked a different dinner? What if you played a different song? And it goes all the way, and it goes all the way back to our birth and our conception, and the same infinite outcome of possibility applies to our mom and dad and their mom and dad and our mom and dad's mom and dad, and that goes all the way to the single cell organism on Earth. Yeah, that goes all the way maybe Big Bang, because they're saying the Big Bang came from somewhere. So when you add up how much of an infinite possibility we are, it's a bigger bang than all those bottles.
Damn. Wow. Well, we can't leave it on a better note than that, I don't think. Goddamn. Kubby, thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us, dude.
Sure.
It was absolutely amazing. Let's do it again sometime.
I've learned so much. I feel enlightened.
Je step up, put the